Alright, hi everyone. Welcome to today's class. And right now we have reached the second stage of the Apping Thanksgiving crash course. Today it will be having our second instructor for this course, Richard Xiang, to continue teaching you all regarding the world of AI, right? So he will be guiding you through today's class regarding the AI trivia game and also next class regarding the customizable recipe maker, which is actually really similar to a competition winning project from before. So that will be a huge improvement for you guys to practice your skills, especially due to the incoming competition for Metro Hacks, which is happening next weekend. So if anyone's interested, feel free to try it out. So one day hackathon, December 16th, I believe, to 17th. And also, if you haven't already, which I'm pretty sure you all have already, but definitely join the Apping Club Discord server so you have access to all of our slides and all of our teachers can answer any questions you may have throughout the week. But anyways, that's basically all I wanted to say, and let's continue with Richard.
All right, so you guys can see the screen share, right? So today we're essentially going to be making a trivia game with ChatGPT created questions. And it's essentially going to be like a challenge system where you can actually go on to like a global leaderboard for depending on how many points you get in the trivia game. So essentially the requirements are that the multiple choice questions have to be created completely with ChatGPT, and they have to be new pretty much every single day, since they shouldn't just be the same one over and over again. We'll have 3 difficulties of questions: easy, medium, and hard. We're gonna have score tracking, so everyone has a copy of their own scores. There's gonna be a daily leaderboard, so you can see how you placed against other people, like the top 3. And then it's gonna show you the correct answers. So first up, let's prepare our components. Because we're doing like online connectivity with the daily leaderboard, score tracking, that sort of stuff, we're going to want cloud data. So in MIT App Inventor, let's just go onto here, disable our status and title. All right, so now you guys can access that. So essentially, because we want cloud data, we're gonna have to like create essentially a structure for it. So the way MIT App Inventor does that is with this component in storage called CloudDB. And this essentially stores data in like one big dictionary that's just stored online on overseas servers. So then to structure this out, we're clearly going to want the current date. So this is when the questions have been made. So that way we can make it so they regenerate every single day. Then we have to list out like the 3 difficulties, like easy, medium, hard, each of their questions, which is their question, their answer, and the potential answers that they give you. And then the leaderboard of people for each easy, medium, and hard with their usernames and their scores. So first of all, we're going to want a starting screen. So you can see that here. From here, we can just say a text box text at the top, the label. Make this pretty big, like 24 or even 36. Center it. And in order to make sure it's centered, we have to make it full width. Let's name this Thanksgiving Trivia. And underneath, we can have like a big picture since we want to take up a bunch of space. So then we're just going to have a couple of pictures. The first one is going to be the turkey. And then for later, for the leaderboards, we will have a gold trophy, a silver trophy, and a bronze trophy. And you guys can pretty much find these anywhere online by just searching up like gold trophy PNG, going on to images, opening one up that's like transparent, this or something, right clicking, then you can save the image. All right, so let's put our turkey inside this picture. Just like this. This looks pretty good. Let's have this be 500 height. Oh, it's 200 height. So it looks about right. Then we want a text box so that the user can put in their username, since we want this to be on like an online leaderboard. So they should be able to attach like a username to it so that people know it's them. So I want this to be full width. And for the label, more like the hint, we can write something down like enter your username. Now we're gonna have a big button at the bottom. Now just fill it up. And we can just say, let's start. So one thing I like to do when I'm programming MIT App Inventor is that I like to create all the components out first. So once I've designed the UI, it allows me to better create the code, interact with it. If I were on something like JavaScript though, I would likely do it like page by page, since everything's still like with text there. But since everything's components visual here, it's easier to put out the components first and then align them all together. So that's screen one done. And apart from screen one, because we want to make sure there's difficulties, we want to make a difficulty select screen. Yeah, we make a new screen, difficulty select. And again, move the status bar, move the title. Add a label at the top. Select your difficulty. Wants to be center aligned. Want this to be full width. And then we want there to be 3 difficulties. So we're going to have one big button for easy. And then we can copy and paste this to make medium and hard. So inside of here, it's easy. It's going to be full width, so it's easy to click. Green background. Here. Let's say 24 font size, so it's easy to see. Then we want one for medium, one for hard. As you can see, the red background color is pretty dark, so we're just going to make the text color white. All right. So now we have our difficulty select screen ready. We can then have our leaderboard. So it's going to be another screen. No status or title. I'm going to make our own title up here. Scan size 24, censored, full width. This is going to be our leaderboard. And then what I like to do in MIT App Inventor also is to essentially put in test data at the start. So as you can see on the slideshow, we have easy, first, second, third, and then some example scores. And having this placeholder data allows me to better visualize where everything's going to be and what it'll all look like. So we leaderboard for easy. Then we're going to want to have the image and then the text. So we're going to have a horizontal arrangement. Full width, of course. And each of these will have an image right here and a label. Oops. Label. It will be also size 24. And each of our images is going to be loaded up. So let's start off with the gold trophy. We're going to want to make this 24 by 24 pixels. So that fits nicely inside this box. All right, so we want first, second, and third. So we're going to make this the silver one. Make this the bronze trophy. Put in some more filler data. So 2 is second, 3 is third. Then we can have your score down here. say we got 20 out of 20. I'm gonna have a back button since you're going to be accessing the leaderboard, probably from the difficulty select screen if you already completed it. And because we're on the leaderboard screen and we've already like completed everything, it'd be good if we had like a little place where we could see our answers. Well, not our answers, but like the correct answers to the questions if we like tried that. So to do this, we're going to want a button on the left and a button on the right to toggle through the questions. And then at the center, just like all the questions. So to do that, we're gonna have a horizontal arrangement, full width, full height. So this way we can put in these left and right buttons. Instead of full height, actually, let's just make this scrollable. Have one button here. And then in the center, we want our question and each answer. So we're going to have that be a vertical arrangement. And once again, another button. So, and our buttons are going to be full height. And our vertical arrangement is going to try to be full width. This side. Now we want our questions and answers. So at the top, let's say question 1. Font size, so it's clear to see. Make this full width. And each of these is going to have an answer. So answer A, B, C, and D. And in order to show the correct answer, let's just highlight in blue. So, sorry, green. So let's say this is the correct answer. We'll just have its text color be like a dark green or something. Darken it by running custom. So this is what the leaderboard screen is going to sort of look like. Then apart from the leaderboard, the final screen we're going to need is the questions so that they can actually do the trivia. So let's add one more screen. So we're going to want our question number in the top left. So let's say 1 out of 20. I want to make this big so it's easy to see. I'm going to want the actual questions. So like that. Then we're going to want each answer. So the way we're probably going to format this is that we're going to have 4 buttons for answer A, B, C, and D. And then when you click them, it's probably going to like highlight them a sort of way, like probably with the background changing or something. And then we can click next or back to toggle between the questions. So let's have question. Let's do the first text box for question A. So full width, A, answer A. And let's actually left align these since we don't know how wide each question is going to be. So answer. So A, make this a little bigger, like 24 font size. And A, B, C, and D. All right, so now that we have our buttons, we need a way so that we can actually like go between each question. So to do that, let's have like two buttons for back and next, except in order to make it look good, we want to ideally align them at the bottom. So the way we can do this is by having a horizontal arrangement at the bottom, making this full width and full height, and then just aligning it to the bottom. So this will eventually fill up the rest of the screen, and then if we line it to the bottom of this, then it'll be aligned to the bottom of the screen. So align to the bottom. I have two buttons, one for back, one for next. You can copy and paste one of these answer buttons to make it easier. So back. And next. Let's have these ones be center aligned. All right, so we're looking pretty good now. So now that we have our essential structure figured out, so we're gonna have be on screen one, go to difficulty select. It's gonna send us to the leaderboard if we already took it, questions if we didn't. This is what this. Now we essentially need to start doing code. But before we do that, in order to interface your blocks with your actual front screen, your components in the designer, it interacts with it using these components right here. So ideally want to have these be the right names. And we don't need to name anything if the code isn't going to communicate with it. But for things like the text box and the buttons, we ideally should. So let's say this is going to be the username. So let's just name this username. This button's going to be starting. For difficulty select, this is going to be easy, medium, and hard. So let's just name it accordingly. On the leaderboard, we're going to need to change this since it has the difficulty in the top right. So let's rename this label to difficulty. Gonna have to change this according to the place the person's in. So first, second, third. This is your score, so you're gonna want to change this too. This is going to make us go back, so let's just name this back. This button goes to the previous question, so let's just name this previous. This is the current question we're on. This is answer A, B, and C, so let's just name this accordingly, A, B, C, and D. And then let's name this next. All right, so now on to questions. This is going to be your question number, so let's name this index, let's say. This is going to be the actual question, so let's name it accordingly. A, B, C, D, E. So A, B, C, and D. Once again, back, and next. All right. So now we have our components fully set up with IDs and names and everything. Now let's get started with the actual coding. So for a start screen, this is where everything gets set up. And because our database, our cloud database actually starts off completely empty at the start, we're going to want to fill that up with this required structure right over here. And to generate the questions we haven't yet, we're going to be wanting to do that on the start screen. So to do that, we're going to need a couple components. We have our Cloud DB ready already. So now we can also need TinyDB, since we're going to persist the username so we don't have to keep typing it over and over again. It's Chatbot, so that we can generate the questions. That's in the experimental section. The clock in order to see what the current date is, to see if we need to regenerate the questions. That'll be in sensors clock. notifier. So this is essentially going to allow us to tell the users, wait up, we're generating all the stuff, wait until we're finished, and then it'll be ready. So that should be in user interface. And then our web component. Right here. So this web component is essentially just going to let us convert our text that ChatGPT is going to respond with, and then convert it into the actual questions in like a good data format. So let's get started with coding screen one. So when we start the screen, let's see what we have to do. So first of all, if we already had a username previously, let's put that back in the text box. So we're going to set our username.text to tinydb. Then we want to essentially get our most previous username value. So let's say the tag will be username. And then just in case it's not there, then we'll just keep it blank. All right, after we've done that, then if we look on the slides, we're going to need to check if the date lines up or if it's even there at all. So in order to do that, we're going to fetch the cloud DB. I'll try to get the string. If we look back at our overview format, our date's just a string at the root. So we're going to fetch the string tag. And if it's not there, we're just going to do an empty string so we can catch it. So when the cloud DB gets its data back, we put this in here. And the reason why this has to be in a separate function and not just a data return function is that CloudDB is over the internet. So you have to, yeah, so our username creation screen is just going to be at the screen one. So they're going to do this since screen one is just where they start. So when the CloudDB gets back the date, we want to do some tests. So first of all, we need to make sure there's even a date that came back. So let's compare the text of the value. If it's nothing, then that means we never opened up this app before. So then we need to set up everything again. Actually, because the format, I think we can just get away with checking today's date. So if today is not the current date listed, and we get the current date with this clock1.format date, let's just take this date string so we don't have to copy it. Then let's set this. We need to put an instant into here, which is essentially just a date instance. So let's set that to the current time. So clock1.now. So this essentially saying if the current date isn't the same as the last time this was all the questions were generated, then we need to generate them once again. So to do this, we want to ask the chatbot to generate some stuff. So let's just actually have a couple more chatbots so we can generate each question parallelly. So let's do chatbot 2, chatbot 3. And let's name these coordinates. So easy, this will generate the easy question, this will generate the medium question, and this will generate the hard question. And the blocks I'm gonna have now aren't going to perfectly line up with the blocks on the side. So yeah. We can put in system messages into here, except because we have a separate one for each of them, it'd just be easier to ask ChatGPT directly. So let's do the easy first. So in order to get it to generate the text that we want, we're going to need to feed it a prompt. So let's see what we need. We need 20 different questions since each quiz is going to be 20 questions long. So we're going to ask ChatGPT to generate a list of 20 Thanksgiving themed multiple choice questions and 4 answers. More answers each. And we don't have ABCD since we're just gonna have it return in like a list format. And then in order to get this from like ChatGPT's just normal text to the actual answers, I want to tell it in the format of, then let's put our JSON there. Before that, because we're doing the easy one. By the way, when you enter the meeting, please remember to mute. Let's just say list of 20 easy Thanksgiving themed multiple choice questions. Then our format, let's say, is going to be, we will look back into our cloud data overview. Just this. So let's just copy this. And we want to make sure it doesn't generate anything else. So only generate JSON data, nothing else. Since sometimes ChatGPT will just be like, okay, here, they'll say, okay, here you go, instead of just giving us the data directly. And another thing I've noticed that happens with ChatGPT. Okay, so essentially compare text just like compares the first one and the second one. So here we're testing to make sure the value of the date that we're fetching above here, we want to make sure that date is not the same as the current date. Since if they're not the same, then we want to start creating new questions since they're supposed to change every single day. Okay, so as I was saying, something that happens with ChatGPT that I've noticed is that if you do it like this, where you have the 2 brackets on the end, it won't really treat it as an array. So we can just wrap it and it should work better. And if we analyze this data structure, we can clearly see this is essentially the curly brackets represent dictionaries in MIT App Inventor, which are essentially sets of like key value pairs. And then for our answers, you see 2 square brackets, and same with the questions. That just means like a list or an array, or essentially it's just a list of different elements. So in this case, we have a list of 20 questions. That's what this is for. Each question is a question. The actual answer, which is the index of like A, B, C, D, except instead it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3. And for our answers, it'll be a string list. So let's say, what is the best Thanksgiving food? A would be like turkey, B would be like cranberry sauce, blah, blah, blah. So the first element would just be turkey. All right, so we want to ask ChatGPT to return easy, medium, and hard. What do you mean, like, check all that apply? Oh, that's what you mean. We could do that, but that would probably increase the code complexity a bit. So we're just gonna do like single multiple choice for now. Since in order to do that, you'd also have to ask ChatGPT to allow like multiple answers. It'd be hard to like get it to mix and match since you'd have to detect that in your normal code too. Let's modify the prompts. So the part that I copied from the cloud data overview is this part. Since this should be what ChatGPT is like giving us back, just a list of all the questions along with their answers, potential answers, and their like ABCD actual answer. And then the rest of the stuff, like this questions on the outside and this leaderboard, we'll be implementing ourselves. So you want to ask medium this and hard this. And in order to check like when they're all done, let's just at the top have a global variable. How to connect my mouse. Let's just have a global variable up here. Let's say this is going to be how many have already been completed. So questions generated. And this will start off at 0. Here. And then because we're like generating questions and stuff, this will take a bit of time. Let's ask our notifier to show us some text. Just saying like, please wait, we are generating questions. And because we want to make sure this happens, let's start off this let's start button as disabled so that they can't click on it until it's done. And because we do that, inside of our if statement, let's add an else. So if the value is the same as the format date, then that means it's already been generated today. So then all we have to do is allow them to continue. So let's undisable the button here. All right. So then for each of our ChatGPTs, when we get a response, we're going to, if you look in this code, we're going to want to format it the correct way, put it into its respective cloud DB place. So inside using medium or hard. And then once that's all finished, we're going to want to get it ready. So let's just like put it into an easy to deal with variable at the start. So let's call this data. This is going to be a dictionary with our questions being the data that ChatGPT responds. And then the leaderboards. We look back at our cloud data overview. It's just a list of the user's usernames and then the score they got. And because this is a list, we're going to start off empty. This is going to be new empty list. So empty list. And because ChatGPT is going to give us this response in essentially pure raw text, we're going to need it to convert into dictionaries. So that's why we had this web component to sort of JSON text decode with dictionaries. Then the text is going to be our response text. right, so now that we have our data ready, we can put it into the CloudDB. So do this with CloudDB dot store value. This is easy, so let's store it into our easy tag. And the value that's going to store is going to be the data. Right, since this will happen pretty much like asynchronously, sort of, we can just let this happen in the background. And then this is essentially starting the process. So we're going to want to increment our questions generated by 1. So set questions generated to addition questions generated plus 1. And then after we increment it, we're going to want to check if it's equal to 3. So if it's equal to 3, then that means easy has been generated, that's 1. Medium has been generated, that's 2. Hard is generated, that's 3. So if it's equal to 3, then let's run some procedure that we define later to set up. Actually, I don't think we need a procedure since we're just unsaving this button. So let's go to here, a stop button, make sure it's enabled again. And we can show the user another alert just saying like it's ready. So the questions have been generated. Let's go now. So now we want to do this for both easy, medium, and hard. We can clean up blocks like this. And if we look at that, that's pretty much most of this done. And now all we have to do is the start. And something we can actually do is open up ChatGPT and type in one of these questions to make sure it outputs the correct stuff. And so as we can see, it's generating the JSON correctly. And if we zoom in, let's examine the stuff. So as we can see, for this, what is the name of the ship that brought the pilgrims to the Americas in 1620? The answer is Mayflower. And this says it's answer 0. So in most coding languages, MIT App Inventor isn't this way, but lists, their index start at 0. But MIT App Inventor's lists start with 1. So we just need to keep that in mind so that we select the correct answer. Oh, so our AI is actually going to be generating new questions every day. So we're not the ones making the actual questions. Our MIT App Inventor app is doing that. This is just like making sure our prompt actually works correctly and generates what we want it to generate. So ChatGPT actually messed up right here. It was supposed to have a backslash here. And sometimes that happens, but the prompt with the formatting. Oh, yeah, sure. Then you would replace like easy with like medium or hard, depending on the question you're doing. No problem. All right, so now that our questions have been generated with ChatGPT, let's just make our start button work. So when we click start, we're going to want to go to the difficulty select screen, but we're going to make sure we also remember our username that we got typed in. So we're going to do that with TinyDB. So we're going to set the value of the username to the username input.text. Then we're going to want to open up a new screen. That's going to be our difficulty select. So that is screen one complete, and we have essentially been generating data and setting up the start button. All right, so now let's move on to our difficulty select. So now we have easy, medium, and hard. So in order to manage this, we're going to want TinyDB and CloudDB so that we can essentially get the right questions and make sure our username matches up. And if it does, we go to the leaderboard. If it's not there, then we go to questions. So let's put those components in storage. Now let's get to coding. So we're going to need something when we click easy, medium, hard. So let's start off with easy. So if we really think, when we click the easy button, we need to determine whether we go to either the leaderboard for easy or the questions for easy. So to do that, the first thing we're going to need is to fetch the actual leaderboards to check if our user is in there. So to do this, we're going to do CloudDB dot get value. It's going to be looking for the easy tag. And this value is always going to be there because we generated it in the previous screen. So let's go into here. That's the same pause on the right. Copy paste, copy paste. Do the same for medium and hard. All right, so now that we have easy, medium, and hard already, let's take our CloudDB one. So then whenever we get the easy, medium, or hard questions, we need to check if it's in the leaderboard. So to do that, let's just start putting a local variable. So this is taking the quiz. Let's set this to false initially. So what we want to do, the structure that we're going to return is the questions and a leaderboard. We're going to want to loop through our leaderboard and then check if our username is in any one of those users. So to do that, let's go into here. We're going to do a loop, go through each user. So the name is for each user in the list value. So our value is going to be this whole thing with the questions and a leaderboard. So we're going to just select the leaderboard. So to do that, we're going to want to get the value in the dictionary. Leaderboard. All right, so now we're looping through the leaderboard, looking through every user. So we want to check if the user is equal to the username that we put in. So to that, we put an if statement. Then we compare the different usernames. So compare text. So we want to check if the user's username. So to do that, go into dictionaries, get value for key. This. So it's getting the username, which is just a string. So if it's equal to our current user, which is in our tinydb, so tinydb.getValue, our tag is going to be username. If the two usernames are the same, then that means they have taken the quiz. So we want to set taking the quiz to true. All right, so now that we can have verified whether or not they have taken the quiz, let's do one more if statement. Here, they have taken the quiz. Let's put this in here. Then you want to send them to the leaderboard since they can't take the quiz multiple times. So we're going to want to open the screen. And we're going to have the data inputted. So I'm going to open screen with data. Same with the questions. So if they've taken the quiz, send them to the leaderboard. Otherwise, send them to questions. And because our leaderboard and questions include like the difficulty level, we're going to want to send that into. So let's just add a line here where we set the difficulty of the whole thing, then set that to the tab. All right, so now that this value is ready, you can just send them into the leaderboard and questions respectively. Like the code so it looks nicer. So this is our code for difficulty select. Easy, medium, hard, the two non-visible components, and then these are blocks that can fold. All right, so next up, let's move on to the leaderboard. This is going to take a lot more code since it's doing much more though. All right, let's get started. So the easiest thing for leaderboard is just this go back button. So let's just go then first get it over with. If the user clicks back, then we want to just close the screen. Since the way MIT Implementor screens work, they don't like swap between pages like on websites. They layer on the screens on top of each other. So when we're on the leaderboard screen, we're actually, our first layer is screen one, our second layer is the difficulty select, and the third layer is our leaderboard. So all we have to do here is close our screen. All right. So now we get into the tricky part, which is setting up all this data input. So to do that, we're going to need to do stuff on initialization. And if we look over here, first thing let's say is just setting the leaderboard for colon space easy to just the actual difficulty. So we're going to want to set the difficulties text to use join leaderboard for colon space. Then our difficulty. So to get our difficulty, we have to select it from the start value since our input's just, our start value is just a dictionary. So I think that's in control. So we want to get the difficulty of our start value. All right, so now that that's set up, we want to set up first, second, and third. So let's just do first, and then we'll copy it over. So we want to do this. Let's actually edit this a little bit. since it's going to look like first place's name. Let's say we got 20/20. Second place, we got 19/20. Third place, we got 18/20. That's it. Okay. So for our first place, we're going to want to format the text correctly. Let's copy over this join. So first is going to be one dot at the start. So how many things are we gonna have in there? Join one dot, then the username, then the dash, and then the score. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 different things in our join. So let's just pop those on the end. So now we want to have the first user's username. So to get that, we need to select the first user. And to do that, we need to get if we look back in our CloudDB structure, the leaderboard is a list of the username and scores. And this is probably we're going to make it so the first element is first place, the second element is third place, and the third element is third place. And it just like keeps on going like that. So we want the first user. So we're first going to get into the leaderboard object with the value for key. Then we want to select the first element. Then we want to select their username. Now we selected their username. We want to also select their score. And copy this over, put down their score. And so in case this isn't here, so like in case there's in the first place or second place or third place yet, let's just put in a couple dashes. Let's say 5 for this. Here. We actually need one more element for the score actually, since we're doing out of 20. I'll put that in. So setting button, put another string at the end. Type down out of 20. All right, so that's first done. So now we need to do the same for second and third. Copy this, paste these over. And this is why the leaderboard is very long. Then put the right number here. This should be a 3. This should be a 2. We'll go with this. That looks about right. All right. So now that we've set up our first, second, and third place, we now need to set up our score. So to do that, we need to loop through our leaderboards and then look for who we are. So each user in the leaderboard, take this from up here. Want to check if the username is the same. So let's copy this from up here. Put text. So if the username of the current user is equal to our username, which is tinydb.getUsername. We need to put that in here. All right. So if the usernames match up, then this is us. So we can set our score, which is down here. Set that text to join so we can format it. Then our score at 20. Then put the slash number here. All right, so that is the top half of this done. So now we just need to do the actual filling in the questions. So to do this, we're probably going to just want to have a function that loads in our questions so we can run that every time we could go like front and back. So let's make a new procedure. So that's to essentially like repeat code. And then in this procedure, we're gonna want to, let's just call this set question. We're gonna want to make this take in the question index up here. And we're gonna want to store the current index that we're on in a global variable up here. Start that one. All right, so we're going to also want to call this in our initialization, and then we're going to set it to the first question. So in order to set the question, first thing we want to do is set this top part. So we're going to want to set the question that gets put in there. And then we want to also update our old question number. We want to join the index, little dot space, so 1-1 dot space, and then the actual question. So in order to get the question index, let's just put that into a local variable. Question. Then that would be the questions at the start value with the index of the index that gets passed in. All right. Yeah. So now that we set up this, we can add two more things here. So our actual question will be in the question text. So key of the question variable. So as you can see, the same as up here. And now that we have this, we want to update the A, B, C, and D for this. So let's set this and start with A and then we copy and paste it after. Set the text again to join A. Then the first question. Sorry, first answer. So we're gonna take the answers. Then we're gonna want to select the first one. So as you see, things up there. I'll copy and paste this for B, C, and D. This in. B is index 2. C is index 3. D is index 4. Then we want to reset the colors of our answers. So let's set them all to black. So set the text color. And we find black color here. Do that for B, C, D. Now that we've set each individual color, we want to set the correct answer to green. So we have in here if two else if and else. So now we want to check if the correct answer is the first one. So to do that, we look back at our CloudDB overview. This is found in the just answers like singular key. So if the answer to the question, if that index is 0, as we saw back in the ChatGPT thing, it returns the answer index as the corresponding thing up here. Index is 0, then we want to set the first text color to dark green. So let's say this. Actually, maybe a little lighter. Otherwise, if it's B, that's 1. C, that's 2. Otherwise, it'll be D. We can put them in here. All right, so now this is the set question procedure complete. We've called it up there. So now we also want to call it when we click the back and previous button so that we can essentially like scroll through the questions. All right. So when we click the previous button, we want it to first check if it can go to the previous question. So it'll only be able to do that if the index is above 1, since the lowest question index is 1. So let's take an if statement. The current index, global current index, I want to check if this is greater than 1. Then we can go to the previous question. So then we would be doing calling the set question to the current index minus 1. Then we do this for next, except now we're checking if it's less than 20, since 20 is the highest number. Then we can set it instead of minus 1 to plus 1, since we're going to the next question. In the code, and it looks pretty good. So now finally, we're going to be moving on to the questions page. All right, so now we're going to be once again taking in that input data. And first up, we can keep this as 1 out of 20. And then we're going to want the function procedure once again to select the question. Scan, make a new procedure, set question. take in a question index. All right, so first thing we're going to want to edit is this top thing up here. So we're going to want to set this to the index out of 20. So set the index.text to join index out of 20. We're going to want to update the question text. Just like this. So in this case, it'd be one dot space, and then the actual question. Do this, we go back into our thing. We can see that the questions is the list starting at 1. So we would take the first question, sorry, not the first question, the question at the index. So select list item at the index. And our list item is going to be the questions that we get from start value. So select dictionary, get value for key. Our key is questions. And then we want it in the dictionary of the start value, since that's just gets passed in. All right, so that's those. This and this done. So now we need to set the answers. So once again, start off with A, copy the rest. Want set A.text to join. And the actual answer. So I want it to be 1. Whoops. I see a mistake up here. This is actually the entire question object. So we need to select just the question text from here. So question. Then up here, we want to get the answers from this. So this is the list of strings. Then we want to select the first answer since we're looking for answer A. So index would be 1. Then we do the same for B, C, and D. So copy, paste, paste, paste. Index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4. All right. So now we've correctly set our answer text. And then let's just make sure it looks like normal. So actually set our background colors to light gray to start off as. Then we want to set all of them to light gray since they've been unselected. Set the background color to light gray and set the color to black. Then we set these up. B, B, C, C, D, D. All right. So now we are done with like setting up the question and answer stuff. Except we need to also keep track of the questions that the users have already answered. Let's make a new global variable of their answers. Let's set this to an empty array. Sorry, empty list. So our structure for the answers are probably just going to be a list of 20 numbers. So actually set this here. And then we're gonna make it so -1 means that they haven't, sorry, 0 means they haven't chosen an answer yet. 1 is gonna be A, B is gonna be 2, C is gonna be 3, and D is gonna be 4. So let's make a new list. Actually, let's make this start off as empty so that we can programmatically set 20 without having to do annoying stuff. So then when we initialize, got a loop from 1 to 20. Then we're going to want to add an item to the answers. Then each of these is going to be the number 0. So these are going to be our answers. Then in here, we want to check if our answer has been chosen already. So let's say we like chose a question, went to next, and then we went back to this question. We want to update the selection color. So you want to check the current question. So if, then we find our current question by doing select list item. Our list is all the answers. We've done. Index is index. So if the answer was 1, that's A. Let's add to that. 3 else's. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we want to set the background color to, let's say, complete black, and set the text color to complete white. Do the same with the rest of these. All right, so now that we have this set up, it's going to be setting the background color correctly of these. Then we can, let's just implement back and next right now. So if you click back, Once again, we want to only go back if the index. Yeah, once again, quick question number as a variable. Want to do this only if our current index is greater than 1, so you can change it. Then you can set question with this -1. Yep. I don't think I'll be able to test it as we're running out of time though, but I'll still send you guys the code for the finished working. Welcome. Then we want to only allow it to go to the next question once it's less than 20. And then the user has to be able to actually submit their quiz though. So let's add in one more button at the bottom. It's going to be our submit button. R24 with 4. And we're going to make this submit button invisible unless they're on the last question. Okay, good. So in here, let's check if the index was told to be 20. That means it sets it to the last question. We want to make the submit button visible. So sets visibility. To true. And then if it's not 20, then we want to make sure it's invisible. So set it to false. All right, looking good. And now we want to handle the answers. So when we click A, this is not. Just put this in the backpack so I can better copy and paste it. So then when we click A, need to have to wrap this in something so it actually lets me copy and paste it. Copy it there. Put this on the side. So when we click A, we want to set the background colors accordingly. Then we want to update the answer of the current one to the answer we picked. So we want to place the list item. The list is going to be our answers at our current index with 1. B, that's going to be 2. For C, that's going to be 3. For D, that's going to be 4. Let's make the colors right, so it properly changes the colors. Clean up the blocks. All right. So now when we click each answer, it should update the answers accordingly. And then when we click submit, let's actually add a little notifier here. We're gonna also want to have CloudDB to upload our score, and then TinyDB. Check the username. All right. So now when we click submit, we want to first make sure that we've actually answered every question. Want to loop through every answer. Set a local variable. Answered every question. Set this to true at start. For each answer in our list answers, if our answer was 0, meaning that we didn't select it, then we want to set our answered every question to false. And we want to notify the user that they didn't answer every question. So if we do not answer every question, then we want to show the alert that, what's it? You did not answer every question, so you cannot submit it yet. All right, so if they did and they're actually ready to submit, then we should get their score. So in order to get their score, let's make a new local variable. Say this is the current score, starts off at 0. We need to loop through the answers. Because we want the index as well, we have to do it this way. 1 to 20 by 1. So then we want to check if the answer, so this would be select list item, answers, at the index, at the answer index. We want to check if this matches up with ChatGPT's. So if we look back at our cloud data overview, we find this in questions.answer. So we want to first go into our answer. Sorry. Yeah, first go into our questions. So select the value for key, Questions. Start value. Now that we're in questions, that's the array, so we need to select the corresponding question, and then we want to get its answer. This is actually +1, since 0 maps to 1 for ChatGPT's response versus our response. So if these match up, that means the user got it correct. So we want to increment score. So we set the score to score +1. So now that we have what our user got, we need to put it into the actual Cloud DB. So in order to do that, we need to go into our leaderboard and then put our score in the right place. So for each user in the leaderboard, here's your x axis. So we want to go from 1 to the leaderboard's full length. Let's see. I'm gonna start off there. Let's add a new variable. Let's call this our placement. Say we start off in this place. So if the user's index, so if the score of the user, get this by going here. So this gets the score of the current user. If the score is less than our score, then that means we're above them. And then the first person that we're actually above, we want to put ourselves right before them. So in here, if their score is less than ours, then we want to check also if this is actually the first user that this happened with. So let's do and. Our placement is not equal to 0. Then we want to set the placement to current index. This is the user we're going to go in front. All right, so now that our placement is ready, we're going to want to insert ourselves there. So go into lists. I'm going to insert ourselves. So we're going to make a new dictionary. our username. Oops. Being the current username that we have found in TinyDB. And our store, that we got. Our index will be our placement. And our list will be the start value. All right, so now that we have our fully updated start value, then we need to update our CloudDB. So now we can go into here, store value, we want it to be the current difficulty. So get the difficulty like this. So we want to set the difficulty to our new start value that has us included in it. Then once this is done, this would be once we get the value, we can close out of our current page. Then we want to close, and then we want to open back up leaderboard. So to do that, we would do open another screen. I did the order wrong. We have to do open screen. Leaderboard with the start value being our current start value. And we have to do result. So then we close our current screen. We do this with the new start value. So now this will essentially, once you submit everything, it will check your answers, give you your score, and then put you into the leaderboard. And then this is fully updated. Once again, once the day passes on and you're on to the next day, the next person that goes to the starting screen will regenerate the questions and the leaderboards and stuff. They'll be ready to play them. All right, so that was the full class. I will send you guys the source code afterwards.